organisation was doing was completely wrong. But I do sincerely thank my colleagues here from my former party for their warm welcome to this place. There's no surer way to mend years of factional strife than quitting for good and joining a better party. I feel like Switzerland, peace with all. I first heard of the Liberal Democrats in 2012 when Clinton Mead, who's here tonight, was elected a mayor. I devoured their website and said, hallelujah. I was tempted to defect a few times, but didn't quite bite the bullet, still betting that the best bet for small government was reform of the Liberal Party. In mid-2021, that changed. State and federal Liberal governments did 4 things that made me throw in the towel. The first was the authoritarian COVID police state. All over a bad flu. Bad flus are bad. Bad flus happen from time to time. But we treated COVID as though it was Ebola. The COVID fatality rate in New South Wales was 0.13%, at the upper end of what we expect each winter, maybe a little bit more, but to call COVID a pandemic was an insult to pandemics. The average age of a COVID fatality in Australia is higher than the average life expectancy. The New South Wales government locked citizens in quarantine just for being near a COVID positive person. Many want to move on from COVID. I don't. Elements in the media tell us there is another pandemic around the corner. It'll be worse than COVID. I'm sceptical, but if true, surely we need a royal commission into the last time a pandemic was declared so we can learn. Sweden alone resisted the hysteria. Masks, lockdowns and vaccines were recommended, but not compelled. Sweden trusted its citizens. And Sweden has had Europe's lowest increase in excess deaths over the past 3 years. I have respect for Peter Costello and Tony Abbott for most of my life. Both have now spoken out forcefully about the COVID madness, but the Liberal Party's best only found the courage to do so after the crisis had passed. The police and even the army and helicopters forbade us to leave our homes to get sunshine, fresh air and exercise. But that radical right-wing newspaper, the New York Times, told us in July 2021 that not one person in the world had caught COVID in an outdoor environment. The second disappointment was vaccine extremism. On the 26th of July 2021, the Liberal Premier of New South Wales announced a 2-week lockdown. 2 weeks morphed into many months and a diabolical catch was added. We won't let you out until you take multiple injections of not only a rushed vaccine, but of an entirely new class of vaccine. Most relented, but everyone got COVID anyway. Last year, the New South Wales Health Department published weekly data showing the fewer vaccines you had, the less likely you went to hospital or ICU. The fatality rate was similar for the vaxxed and the unvaxxed. Since the vaccine rollout, there has been a 15 to 20% increase in excess deaths in nations like Australia who had the mass mRNA injections. Is it the vaccine or is it the bitter hangover from locking people up for so long? We don't know. But either way, it's almost certainly the result of poor governance and yet another reason for a COVID Royal Commission. The Commonwealth Government is still recommending a 5th vaccine, but barely anyone's listening. Too many know of others who had bad reactions. I suspect few, even in this chamber, have lined up for their 5th injection. So they are now doing what we were scolded for doing, thinking for oneself. Ivermectin is a medicine made from the compounds found in the soil of Japan. Prior to COVID, ivermectin had been prescribed to humans, not 4 million times, but 4 billion times. It's such a wonder drug, the inventors won the 2015 Nobel Prize for Medicine. Soon after COVID arrived, various researchers around the world began noticing ivermectin just may be unusually helpful in treating COVID patients. But Big Pharma was alarmed. If ivermectin worked, it was too cheap to make squillions off. So Big Pharma told politicians to not only ban it for sale, but to claim ivermectin is only a horse dewormer. The Therapeutic Goods Administration is a Commonwealth agency that has the authority to say whether a new drug is permitted to be sold in this country or not. I assumed the TGA's funding came from taxpayers. But I recently learned 97% comes from pharmaceutical companies. This is a textbook example of a conflict of interest. The TGA's website today admits they have received over 137,000 COVID vaccine injury reports. Many drugs are pulled from the market after 137 injuries. For any drug, the number of reported vaccine injuries is a fraction of the actual injuries. In the gallery today is Stephen McDonald, Director of the New South Wales Firefighters Alliance, who represents fireys who are still not able to work because of COVID vaccine mandates. Stephen Kelly and Roland Crystal are also here, both long-standing police officers sacked for not submitting to the Big Pharma state. I understand new police recruits are not asked about their vac status, but those stood down are not yet reinstated. John Larter is here too, a paramedic of 25 years, sacked for not taking the vaccine, and he represents many other paramedics. Tony Nikolic is also here. He has heroically defended these people and many others in the legal system. It's been a thankless task, but one day when the COVID fog has lifted, I'll nominate Mr Nikolic for an Order of Australia. I urge the Minns Sharp government to follow the lead of jurisdictions around the world and remove these pointless, cruel vaccines.